cool. So hopefully we get another one here between these really awesome players, Fuoliver and Xingsu. Just let you guys know who these players are. I mean, Fuoliver is like the streamer who has been invited, but he has a lot of results to his name, so he's not just an ordinary streamer who's there for his popularity. And Xingsu is kind of the up and comer. He has not had that many results, but just objectively watching some of his matches, he's played very well there. But looking at Xingsu's face right now, he definitely does look fatigued. So this is going to be an uphill battle for him, and hopefully he has the stamina to be able to make it through here.
Yeah, actually, Xingsu would probably be a more popular streamer than Fuoliver is because his voice is definitely something you should listen for. But
Don't make fun of Xingsu's voice, okay?
no. I didn't make fun of it. The truly the best singer in the whole of Hearthstone circle in China, probably in the world as well. And
In the
I
world,
should
the
find him
best
sing.
singer in the world is Xingsu. You heard it here first, twice. Um, he does have a really high pitched voice when he did his interviews, so or for our Hearthstone team story. So that could be maybe that lends itself to having a really good singing voice. But interesting play here from Xingsu. Didn't play the Night Juggler on turn 2, realizing that a coin SI7 agent would ruin his day there. So it's just gonna hold back and play the long game here, which is definitely shows kind of his experience in this matchup.
All right, well, so maybe talk about a little bit what we can expect from both of these players. I have been kind of underwhelmed by watching Fuoliver's Oil Rogue play. I don't necessarily think that, especially when it comes to like getting out that last big burst combo, that takes so much. It takes essentially even just one spell is a big weakness that Lotheb can really, really throw a wrench into the plans of. So the Fu Oliver, if he was playing the zoo, then I could make the Zoo Oliver pun, but he's actually playing against it here. So maybe see
Xingsu
who's gonna
Oliver?
come out on top, the Fu or the Zoo?
Well, you could just say Xingsu Oliver, right? The or
Eh, eh, I don't know. I feel like there can be only one.
there could be only one
Yeah, jokes are
Fu.
like Highlander.
So the Fu or the Xingsu, here we go. Let's see who's going to win. But kind of an awkward turn here for Xingsu. Couldn't really play the defender because this dies the Tomb Pillager anyway. So it goes for that. He goes for the Void Caller. And remember the last time Full ever went against a Void Caller? It turned into a Mal'Ganis. So maybe Xingsu is playing into that, saying, if you kill this guy, Mal'Ganis is coming out, right? You do know that, right? You don't want to kill this guy right now. But I mean. I mean, it would pop out an in-game bust, which is pretty good value if you think about it. You get a 3/4 for 4, and it pops out a 2/4 that makes it little dudes as well. So it's actually pretty good value. Obviously, you want to get something like a Mal'Ganis or a Doomguard, but I don't think Xingsu would be too upset by this. That's why you play it out. As far as Fuoliver is concerned here, he has a lot of options as far as what he wants to do. Not all of them are that great, obviously, because it's obviously very risky to kill out this Void Call in the first place. So a lot of his options here just involve clearing everything else out, or maybe just going to the face. Looks like he's going to go for clearing out everything that's not a Void Caller. Looks like he's learned his lesson from the last game that happened. And, yeah, I mean, this game is just basically going back and forth. And Xingsu, I mean, you might think that because he's the zoo that he needs to get something going here, needs to start putting damage to the face, but he's deliberately playing this slow. So you got to think he has a plan here as far as, finishing out this game in the mid to long term rather than just, zerging down his opponent.
Yeah, if things goes oh, that's not it. I was thinking, yeah, if things goes perfectly for Shinsu, he could clear Rogue's board, but the life juggler is kind of a bit wild to tame as long as Blue is concerned.
I mean, you can't really expect the 25. Actually, wouldn't it be 25%? It would be 1 in 3 times 1 in 2. So 1 in 6 is it's 33% divided by 2. Whatever that is, it's not really something that you can rely on. Is what I'm trying to get at. So it wasn't really that likely for him to get that. So I don't really feel too sorry for him, despite his little smirk there. Back over to Fuoliver's turn. He can clear out this this void walk, or excuse me, void collar. I always get those two mixed up. He can clear out this void collar, and then from there, go along with his play as far as dealing with whatever comes out, and still have all of his mana left over as he is going for the prep fan here. So this is obviously much better situation to have than what he saw before when Mal'Ganis came out of there. But let's see what he goes with here. He can clear this entire board, including the imp that comes out. It does involve using a decent amount of resources, but we'll see if that is indeed the case. But looks like he's just gonna apply some pressure to face and go to face with this. I mean, you can't really argue with 5 damage to the face. That's like a lava burst, right? So
yeah, a lava burst that stays on the field. Kind of an interesting decision to go for the Lotheb drop there. I'm not really sure what spell he was really trying to prevent from being used.
I mean, you're playing at Zoo, so you don't really expect... There's no real great turn to play Lotheb, because you never know when they're going to play their spells. And if you're in a spot where you're wanting to prevent them from using powerful element to kill you, then you're probably... That's probably not a good spot anyway. You just wanted to grab the board. So I imagine he just said, well, I want to get this 5/5 on the board. Everything else is kind of weak. I don't really need to use backstab SI now anyway. I can use that in the future turn. So I think that was what he's thinking. He's like, well, let's get this big guy on the board right now.
All right, yeah, and it's like you said, it's versus Zeus, so it's a minion-heavy deck, so maybe there's not a perfect turn to play that, but I think the biggest thing that it gives you is just a big body on the board. And hey, what do you know? There's that mortal.
How much do you trust your Knife Juggler right here? How much do you trust him? And the trust is well-founded. It does kill off the Tomb Pillager. He's like, what?
Wow, okay, that...
He's gonna go for this too? This is insane.
Are you kidding? Oh, okay. I'm glad he kind of got punished there. Well, not necessarily even punished. It's just like, oh well, that didn't work out. But you can see he was really, really hopeful there.
And he could get completely punished here by a huge Blade Flurry, and he didn't pick the Mortal Coil either. I want to see Fuoliver go for this. Just go for Dagger. Just do it. Dagger, Prep. Doesn't even need the Prep, actually. You can just use Coin Tinkers. Oh, actually, he does need to Prep if he wants a Flurry. But so Prep, Tinkers... And then hit the face. He's going for it. I love it.
Oh,
punish
man.
him, Fuoliver. Punish him.
Hey, that's that punishment. That feels so good.
Get him.
Oh my god.
This is the most unbiased casting ever. But that was the most satisfying punish. Oh my god, he's down to 5 health. That's what you get for not clearing out that Lotheb.
And to be fair, one of the reasons that we're so happy about that is because every single one of us have lost games to players who do that same thing where they just flood the board, and it's that one game where both of your consecrations are on the bottom of your deck, or you can't draw swipe or anything like that, and it's so frustrating. So it's just really nice to see someone overextend and then get punished.
Could you get any more punished, by the way? The following turn, he just rolls for 2 on the implosion on top of it.
And he knows. You can see Xingsu's face. He knows that he kind of got owned there towards the end. But hey, that's the game of Hearthstone. It's like own and be owned. Like if you're gonna gloat about beating somebody super hard, you got to be able to take it too. Not that he's done either one of those, but he kind of knows. All right, it didn't work out. Let's go next game.
Yeah, I'm starting to side with Shrink here. That was a really sloppy there from Xingsu. You can kind of tell he's just leaning back in his chair. His face looks tired. He's like, maybe this will work. Maybe I'll get the knife. Let's just do this, I guess. And it definitely did not work out for them. Got completely punished, and we'll see if he can bring it back or if he's just going to, continue to be tired and continue just to fall out of this group.
All right, well, thankfully, the game is not over just because he lost one game. It's a series, best of 5, so it gets another shot.
Yeah, actually, that's what happened to Xingsu last year. So,
wow.
like, the feeling from the starting hand, this is happening again.
Right. Yeah, so this happens to you 2 years in a row. Maybe you need to start... I don't know, working out a bit, start training to make sure you're a bit stronger, make sure you don't fatigue as hard. But it is going to be, I believe, yeah, this is the Arena Luck, if I remember correctly, from Fuoliver going into Zoo. This Arena Luck does, it does curve out a bit late, so maybe we can see Xingsu kind of zerg him down. However, if he puts too many minions on the board, we do see that there's the mind control tech in hand already for Fuoliver. So we'll just have to see how this game plays out. And Xingsu, again, electing not to go for an aggressive play by coining out the Knife Juggler or the Dark Peddler. Instead, going to wait till turn 2 to do so. Dark Peddler picks up a Gadsden Jouster, an Oracle, a Grimscale Oracle, or the Light Warden. And the biggest upside, I would say, here is going to be that Gadsden Jouster, because you're not going to see any healing anyway. You can see a little bit, but, well, it looks like he's going to go for it. Kind of an interesting keep there, but there's not too much healing in the deck that you're going to see that's going to allow this Light Warden to get buffed. So,
Yeah, I was trying to think, like, what do you buff that off of? Like, what healing is going to buff that?
It's going to be your opponent's buff, but obviously your opponent can control the buff. So, I mean, it kind of prevents them from playing something, but it's kind of bizarre, right? Maybe you play it right before you think your opponent's going to Reno. I don't know. It's a little bit bizarre. I think I'd rather go for the 1-2 with a chance at 2-3 if you get a bit lucky there. Obviously, your deck's a little bit less dense than your opponent, so might be a bit risky there. But all right, we're gonna have a clear onto this first body of the Imp King boss, and gonna play his own Game King boss, the Xingsu. But that does get rid of his coin. So that's something that Fuoliver can, basically think about for the rest of this game. Is that okay? My opponent doesn't have a coin left, so I can maybe, deal, or I will have more mana for him for the rest of this game. Oh my god. Implosion hits for 4, sometimes lucky if you are Fuoliver, and that is so painful to see here. I mean, for the zoo, there's obviously a lot of, late game minions that you can have and will allow you to be more resilient than the old zoo, which was just kind of, you play a bunch of earlier minions, but you still want to be ahead on the board, and this is pretty devastating to see.
Yeah, especially versus Zoo. This is a deck that wants to get ahead on board early on. 4/1/1s may not seem like a big deal, but it definitely does help you in that curve. And now, of course, we have to worry about these Void Callers, because we've seen them really, really screw up a lot of people's chances by calling Mal'Ganis's onto the field. Thankfully, that can't happen this time,
well,
but Doomguards are still pretty scary.
I think Xingsu prefers his Doomguard coming out to the Mal'Ganis because of the potential for Big Game Hunter, which we do see is in Fuoliver's hand right now. Fuoliver's going to just get a little bit aggressive here, going to say, okay, you kill off your own Void Caller. I'm sick of killing those guys off.
Yeah, you hate to give things charge, but spoiler alert, it's still going to have charge if it's the Doomguard. But no way to kill that off here, unfortunately enough. But just going to go ahead, buff it up there, taunt it up, and get a pretty big board for Fuoliver to deal with.
All right, and we could actually just see an owl onto this this Void Caller, just to remove the possibility of anything crazy coming out. There didn't really make any sense to use the owl last turn because there wasn't an easy kill. There was actually no kill on it last turn, so it definitely makes sense to kind of wait it out here. He actually doesn't have a kill on it this turn either if he does decide to owl it, because obviously then it takes away the taunt. So we might see Fuoliver just kind of wait it out here once more. He doesn't have any way to deal with the Doomguard, unfortunately. He doesn't have a way to deal with a Mal'Ganis. We'll see how he goes about this turn in particular. But imagine how different this game would have been if never mind, just kidding. We're gonna actually have we're gonna have a double silence. Oh my god, that guy is never gonna pull out anything.
Like, wow, it's like shut up. You're like, but I really shut up. Not allowed to say anything. Kind of an interesting battle cry to duplicate, but I mean, hey, can't get too well away from that. The big battle cry that you want to duplicate is the mind control tech, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Obviously, I mean, the Big Game Hunter's not going to be one of them. But I mean, maybe Healbot or something like that. But yeah, double kill. No, but the big thing here for Fuoliver is he just wants to have a threat on the board that his opponent has to deal with. The problem with that is Zoo is still happy to just keep trading here. I feel like, they're still happy to just sit here and keep trading on the board. Use second defender for Argus. Things are going well. No big deal. So kind of a wasted brand in my opinion here from Fuoliver. We'll see if it comes back to bite him in the end, but. does have Dr. Boom coming out right now, and he is green, he is on the field, and Xingsu's got to deal with this guy.
Yeah, not a whole lot of different ways to deal with that. Once again, Zoo is a pretty minion-heavy deck, so it's not really going to have the big removals like you'd expect. But hey, Mal'Ganis, that's certainly a card. Won't be seeing that, and it's certainly not the answer. You can see Xingsu kind of shaking his head. Not the card he really wanted to tap into. So instead, just going to go ahead and see what he can draw off of this.
I wonder what he's been trying to draw this entire time. Does he have like?
Right.
He's always shaking his head every single time something comes up, as if he was expecting to draw like the most amazing card off the top here. It just won't come, but. I mean, maybe I guess he runs Big Game Hunter in his deck, but I imagine he's not running two, so he can't be too sad about that. In any case, as for Fuoliver's sake, he could just keep hitting the face here. I mean, if it becomes a race, he just says Reno, ha, and just says like, okay, nice try to erase me there. So I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised to see this Dr. Boom just hit the face here, play out this. I believe that's a fugue in there. He's facing sideways, but yeah, I mean, if it ever goes to a race, you play out your Reno. I mean, if there's a big guy that comes on the field, maybe you can BGH him. Mal'Ganis doesn't come up for another turn, so we might have to see Xingsu overreact to kill out this Dr. Boom if indeed Fuoliver goes face here.
All right, well, for Fuoliver, like he's gotten himself in like a good position. He's got a decent minion on the board, 7/7. He's got a pretty good hand. He's only taken 5 damage. So currently, Fuoliver kind of living the dream. But he's got to be careful here to not either over or underextend himself and give the board back to Xingsu, because Xingsu's coming up on some good terms. Whether it's Doom Guards coming out or just lots of tiny minions to play down. So I definitely like the idea here. Just playing the mind control tech for tempo.
Right, so he was considering hitting the face. I was getting really excited there, but went for the more safe play, kills out the knife juggler, doesn't want any more knives coming out, and heals his own Dr. Boom, realizing he has plenty of healing in the form of both Reno and Jiraxis if he needs that in the future. Second knife juggler here, along with the implosion, to see how much it hits for. Gonna reach for the stars and throw it at the Dr. Boom. Unfortunately, doesn't get any knives to the Dr. Boom itself, because as you can see there's no skull on him. Does clear out the mind control tech though, which I guess is an okay consolation prize.
It's not really a consolation prize. It's like, you're trying to leap for this diamond dangling on a rope, and instead of grabbing the diamond, you grab a shoe and then fall down into the mud. It's like, well, you got a shoe with you, but you're still in the mud.
Yeah, I suppose, but I mean, before he threw out the implosion, I mean, you weren't really expecting to kill the Dr. Boom, so, I mean, if you roll for 2, it's basically impossible, and if you roll for 3, it's not likely either. As far as Fuoliver is concerned here, how much damage is he facing down? 5, 9, so theoretically, well, not even theoretically, he can't really die, can he? No, he can die to maybe Mal'Ganis. No, he can't. 12, 14. I'm an idiot. So, I mean, basically it can't die, and I like just clearing out the knife juggler here and hitting the face with the Dr. Boom. Unfortunately, Mal'Ganis would be a problem. He would take a lot of damage, but then he could just come back and use the Big Game Hunter and Reno. So, I think he's actually okay to do what he just did, which is hitting the face, obviously. This game is still pretty heavily in Fuoliver's favor. He just needs to make sure that he finishes it out and doesn't make any mistakes.
All right. Well, for Fuoliver, he's definitely got the decent board, but Mal'Ganis is actually pretty. Wait. What?
He doesn't really want to give. I mean, the Sylvanas is causing problems, right?
Right.
I figure that Xingsu doesn't really want to give his opponent anything right now, so just gonna be patient and wait for Mal'Ganis. What does he roll? He rolls a 3, fair and balanced. No one's too mad about that one, right? But
yeah. They're just kind of setting up for things, playing as much down on the board as possible, just to try to make sure that this Mal'Ganis has a pretty good, combo next turn. Now, unfortunately, the Big Game Hunter, it does exist as a card, and it is in Fuoliver's hand, so it's not really going to work out super well when he does play that down. The other option is to try to go for the lucky play and drop both Doom Guards. I don't think that's a good play to go for.
Well, Xingsu does pick up his Big Game Hunter, which he can use on Thaddeus. Speaking of which, you typically don't see Fugen and Fugen and Stalag, excuse me, played on the same exact turn, but this is one of those rare cases. It's like a shooting star kind of, but
We're all here to witness the beauty of Hearthstone together, D2.
exactly. I'm pretty sure there's no lethal here. It's 9, 13, 14. So 14 damage. Looks like he's just going to use this to kind of clear out some of these minions. Makes sense to clear out Stalag rather than Fugen, just because Stalag can, obviously has an equal trade on the Mal'Ganis, but, yeah, this game is just getting harder and harder for Xingsu. Like, it's kind of hard to see how he comes back from this position and wins the game, because obviously those Doom Guards are kind of sitting in his hand. He needs a Void Caller to get them out of his hand. But in the meantime, he's just kind of stuck dealing with his opponent's board, and if he doesn't deal with it, then, he's a bit of trouble. And if he does deal with it, then his opponent just kind of uses, or if he goes face, his opponent just uses Reno. So it's kind of an awkward situation right here. Siphon Soul's actually a pretty good card to pick up here for Fuoliver, because he can obviously use that on Doomguard. But for now, I imagine it's going to be Big Game Hunter and something. Not really sure what that something is quite yet.
Big Game Hunter and chill. That's it's the kind of Hearthstone I like to play. But either way, of course, the board doing a lot of work here for Xingsu, definitely getting him back into a good position. The only problem is that he's down to 10 health, and with the BGH here on Mal'Ganis, that pretty much undoes a lot of the bonuses he was trying to play with last turn. Plus, he's gonna get Thaddeus sooner or later. Thankfully, there's a BGH for that, but BGHing Thaddeus is still playing kind of defensively with a Zoo deck that definitely wants to put some damage down. To Zoo never feels bad. It never feels good when you're down in life against a your opponent.
Yeah, definitely. The thing here for Fuoliver is he just wants to make sure that he doesn't die. Like how can I possibly die here? So he's actually going to play extremely safe and goes for the Reno right here. Really, the only way he was going to die is if there was a double power-whelming Doomguard, but honestly, the fact that he played so safe here, this kind of opens the door for Xingsu, just because there's no like comeback ability from here. He knows that there's probably a heal bot, but after that, as long as Xingsu just kind of pushes damage to face, he can maybe make this happen.
Well, actually, double PO and Doomguy is kind of meme in China, so you have to caution against that, because China Wildy was killed so many times by double PO Doomguard on screen. So everybody knows the power of it, so you have to play against it in China.
Okay, gotta play against the memes in China. They're pretty powerful, but let's see how much damage is that on board. Depends on the boom bots, of course, but gonna see what we discard here. Optimally, it's
1 in 3.
Slime. Sad day.
The funny thing is, he's been holding on to the Acidic Swampoos for a long time because he knows that there's a Jiraxis in the deck. But, yeah, obviously didn't mount to anything here. And, gonna have to clear the entire board, first of all. He can tap here. He won't die to a Jiraxis Wing if he does so. And he does go for that. Picks up a Point Caller right after he just played a Doomguard. That's gotta feel so bad. But... yeah, I mean, he has a pretty full board. Unfortunately, he's a pretty low life total, which is, kind of the problem with how this game has been playing out, right? He's been just stuck, going back and forth between this Reno log, who definitely has way more healing than he does. And speaking of healing, we have a heal bot coming to the hand. But, alright, well, we could see lethal right here if his Soulfire is picked up off the Dark Peddler. And that's a power overwhelming, unfortunately. Not quite going to be lethal yet. But getting closer and closer to being so, and if Xingsu taps once and doesn't put up a taunt or heal, which I doubt there's any heal in his deck, then it will be game over because of the Jiraxis.
Yeah, Draxus is pretty good, and of course it's going to deal if he was at full health, it'd deal 15 damage to his face, but nobody would really care because he'd just win the game immediately following that. And of course, anytime you're sitting at 4 life, you can't really expect the game to go on much longer unless you have, okay, he heals himself up and postpones.
I guess this kind of makes sense. As long as you just get minions on the field, it's really hard to... I mean, this is the worst case scenario for Fuoliver, right? Which is actually still fine because you're not sustaining any damage to face, and your opponent has to trade you through every single time. So I guess it makes sense in that regard. So it looks like he's going to use his Monocle here. He kind of anticipated that that could happen, and has a Sludge Belcher and an Ooze. Can also tap. Demon Rat doesn't really do anything, but this is probably the end. I can't really see Xingsu picking up a single card that would help him clear this board. And Void Walker will not be it. It does pick up a Power Overwhelming though, so maybe he can do something here. But no, it looks like he's already emoting that he's done with the game. Yeah, he can Power Overwhelming and then clear out the first half of the Belcher. From there, he cannot. So, gonna go ahead and concede as I accidentally throw my pen here. And that's going to be game 2 going over to Fuoliver. And he takes a 2-0 lead, almost, basically 1 game away. He's match point on his way to getting to the round of 16.
All right, well, like you said, match point, it's coming up, and to be fair, there's a lot of money. A total prize pool, I think, is about 50,000 US dollars. Just a couple of thousand below that. It's a pretty big deal as far as Hearthstone in China goes. I think this is like the second largest Hearthstone tournament in China, if I'm not mistaken. But it's there's a lot that you have to go through to be eligible for that prize pool. You have to play through your group stage, and you have to play through the playoffs, and then you have to, of course, choose the money instead of the giant golden Hearthstone.
That is the final obstacle.
That's the biggest temptation right there. Like, before you go into the grand final matchup, you sit up all night, like, Googling exchange rates and the value of, rare earth and metals and stuff like that. And just so that like, should I take the Hearthstone? Should I not?
I highly doubt the Hearthstone cost, $23,000 or whatever the first place.
You'd be surprised. It depends on the size. Like the solid gold, like that.
Well, resale value, I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of don't know what I'm talking about anyway. So let's just not go there anymore. We are getting into this next game, which is going to be, I believe, it's Murloc Paladin versus Zoo. And the first time we saw Fuoliver play Murloc Paladin versus Zoo, he got absolutely stumped. So maybe this is an opportunity for Xingsu to be able to come back here, at least in this game. And just going straight to the face, Xingsu is being very deliberate here in his play. And we'll see if it ends up working out for him. But thus far, it really hasn't in the series.
Yeah, certainly not. But now we're going to get a chance to see a brand new game. Everything is reset. Nothing matters anymore except for this one moment. It's all come down to this. And hey, if you had to pick a deck for it to all come down to, Murloc Paladin is kind of a wacky way to finish things up there.
If you had to pick a deck for this to come down to, Murloc Paladin would not be the one. You'd pick something else. No.
Probably not, but he has 3 chances to make it work, too. So inevitability is on his side.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the reason why you play Murloc Paladin in this situation, right? It seems like a weird thing to think about for Murloc Paladin, but it's kind of like playing Face Hunter back in the day, right? There's not usually going to be 3 decks that beat Murloc Paladin. Usually going to have to play, mid-range decks or, something of that ilk, which, there just aren't that many of them in existence right now that are actually good in the meta. So it makes sense to go with that, and we'll see if you can, kind of play it out here. This is kind of the awkward spot, right, for Murloc Paladin, though, because how do you deal with this board? I think you just play the Sludge Belcher, but as far as like clearing this board, you don't really want to clear it because it's not that threatening, but at the same time, if you don't, you're taking a lot of damage. But in those situations, Sludge Belcher is a good guy to get in the way.
Definitely, I mean, everything dies to it on the board, so great decision to play that. Unfortunately,
until
it's pretty
you PO,
easy.
right?
Yeah, I was going to say, it turns out Power Overwhelming is pretty overwhelming. Kills off the Sludge Belcher, a lot of damage to face there. 12 damage by turn 5 is maybe a little bit behind schedule, but there's a big board left for the Zoo player, and no real way to clear that. I mean, you've got Consecration, and but you're 1 mana off being able to play that along with the Pyromancer.
Was there a Brand Bronzebeard here? This spider is huge. Anyway, sorry, my little joke there. But I'm here all night, folks. Actually, I'm going to be casting later in the HES. But anyway, so going to be just healing himself up. Unfortunately, it takes more damage coming back the other way. Does Fuoliver here, and can't really do anything. So this is exactly how he died earlier to annoying Mino Lotheb ruining his plans at clearing the board. And let's see what we have here. Even with that low Thib, following the rules here, we have 9 damage on board. Could have been lethal this turn with the right card draw. Let's see if he goes for something like a Dark Peddler just to give himself more, ammo here. The egg is actually pretty good, honestly, because it prevents your opponent from doing something like Power Equality or Equality Consecrate, and because you get obviously the 4-drop out of that. So, gonna go with the Dark Peddler. Doesn't pick up any burst damage, but gets a Corruption and a Lance Carrier and a Flame Imp. Actually, the Lance Carrier, I suppose. No,
No,
Yeah.
so
it's not a Lance Carrier. I'm sorry. It's the Lowly Squire. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that isn't burst damage. That's
I was gonna say, like, he's totally carrying a sword. That is not a lance carrier, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all your fault, man. God. But to be fair, not a whole lot of great choices to choose there. So I guess kind of, went with the best in a bad situation.
I was thinking you might go for like a Corruption or something, just to make it awkward for his opponent. Doesn't get any value trades, but this is fine as well. I mean, the Elder's not going to get anything done here. Equality Consecrate leaves behind, at the very least, 2 1/1s and a 4/4. He can't really use his 3/1 after that to do anything of value. Power Equality just kind of kills your 3/3 as well. This is a bit awkward. The good news is he can get 4 cards for free out of those Solemn Vigils. So there is that. So maybe you just go for that. Maybe just go for Power Equality, do a couple of Solemn Vigils. Maybe you can make something happen with your with 3 mana that you get from your 4 cards. You're basically sprinting for 0. That's kind of nice, right?
yeah, I guess this is the only way you can go to because Pyromancer equality doesn't do anything, and you lost 3/3 as well. So
I think
Yeah.
I think you do have to go for it though. I think you need to just hope that your 3 mana, whatever you get for 3 mana off of your your double Solemn Vigil after your Power Equality, you're able to do something. Whereas 1 mana you can't really do anything at all. But he's going to the rope and he's not gonna make it at all. There's no way. He's gonna have just hero power here. He doesn't have any time to do anything at all. So, I mean, he really had to make that turn a bit quicker. Did pick up, the Beluga Warrior, which, is a bit of a help, but or could have been a help. But as you can see, he had to go over the hero power. Didn't have any time afterward. And now we see Fuoliver facing down 6 damage here.
Mm. And the scary thing is here, like the Murloc Paladin, like it, as much as it can do, like it can clear the board, it can do all kinds of crazy things. Killing your opponent as Murloc Paladin before 10 mana is pretty hard to do. Like it's a deck that like doesn't really pose too much of a threat until then. It's good at dealing with threats and not dying up until that point, but it doesn't really do a whole lot of offensive damage. So for the Zoo player, he can just doesn't have to worry about too many crazy things happening to his face, and that really allows him to tap as much as he wants to, get this huge board developed out here. But if there's one thing that Murloc Paladin does do pretty well, it's clear off the board. So we'll have to see if that equality comes into hand. I'm surprised they didn't show the stats for it, but it's not happening this time around.
Right. Equality Consecrate Equality Consecrate or even Power Equality would leave a 1/1 behind because of that Imp King boss. As it stands, Fuoliver could just leave 1/1 on the field right now by using double Consecrate. He could also use Pyro Consecrate Beluga Warrior question mark. I think he kind of has to go for double Consecrate here and just leave the 1/1 on the field. Nothing else really. I mean, you have to kill the 4/4. And nothing else really helps you do that.
What's wrong with Pyro Consecrate's Bluegill Warrior?
You leave behind a 2/2. Hold on. You leave behind a 2/1 and 2 1/1s if you do that.
Yeah, that's true. So you gotta go for everything. So Mal'Ganis is a good card to draw here. That's
I think you
pretty
just
good.
go for it, right? No, really? This is kind of
Really?
weird.
Well, he draws into 2 damage that he would have had anyway.
I mean, that's so much pressure, right? You don't, and your opponent doesn't really run BGHs, I don't believe. He's 1 damage off lethal regardless of what he does. I mean, this could be more damage in the end.
Plus,
Um,
like, there's an owl, so there's no way to like taunt through it. You'd need something like a lay on hands, but even then, you still die because there's so much going on the board. I didn't realize you could silence off effects that were given to. I
yeah,
guess it is a battle cry, but I don't
or an
know. It's kind of
effect,
weird.
yeah. Is there any way out of this for Fuoliver?
I don't know, man. Does
What
not look that way.
he's reaching for Pyro. Okay, so he
Oh,
can Pyro plus Muster for battle, kill off his 1/1s, and then he can choose Silver and heal for
oh, that's the
2.
combo.
But then, oh, and then no, he plays Blue. What am I talking about? So yeah, he's able to live right here. Um,
Wow, that's a little man. He is hanging on for dear life, man. That one off lethal is man. I don't know. There's a lot of cards you could draw to win this, and hey, there's one of them.
that is one of them. All right, so Xingsu, excuse me, is still in this. He wins that game, brings it back to 1-2. He looks really tired in that shot right there. So hopefully he's able to finish this out for his sake.
Well, as what Shrink mentioned is the reason maybe to not not root for him anymore because he is starting to tire out, and I don't know, man. This is going to be kind of scary as we draw in here to our last few games. Murloc Paladin, it's only got to win once, and it's lost once as well. So maybe now is its time to shine.
Right. I mean, I don't have any problem rooting for him. I just don't really want to bet on him right now because he's not looking too good. Kind of a couple of interesting matchups here. Shaman obviously is very aggro focused to say the least, and that'll be something that more like Paladin. Basically, they have to just draw as much healing as possible. I feel like more like Paladin has a favorite matchup versus Shaman because it has so much healing. Versus the Priest, it's a little bit more difficult because you have to deal with Entomb, right? So you have to like do things like play out both your more like warriors at the same time. Sorry about my phone there. They had to play out both more like warriors at the same time to make sure that they both can't get entombed, and then you can't ever play them off of the anything can happen. But that's neither here nor now near there. Actually, maybe it is there if we get to that game. But
Yeah,
for now we're gonna go into this game, and it's going to be basically more like Paladin just trying to hold off as long as possible, and they certainly are capable of doing that with all the healing that they have in their deck.
yeah. Actually, one thing Priest actually can do is thought steal. The anything can happen, and actually play the combo you want to.
Right, but I mean, unless you get both of them, you typically can't burst from, or burst the same way that the Murloc Paladin can.
Well, no, you wait until they play one of them, and
Oh,
then
right.
you play yours, and then you get everything.
But then you could be, that's so risky.
He's
But
already
I
down to
suppose.
24 health. See, it would have been lethal, you know, like
I
9 turns
suppose.
from now.
Yeah, I mean,
Fine. Okay. Anyway,
Hey,
so
anything can happen, D2.
right. Anyway, so it looks like Fuoliver is definitely setting up to go for a Pyro Equality next turn. Judging by the fact that he didn't really attack anything with his 1/1, not even the Flame Tongue Totem. Xingsu could read into this, but I'm not sure he's awake enough to be able to figure this out. But definitely a scary situation, especially because you could go for he can go for the Pyro Equality and then go for Solemn Vigil for 0, which is obviously really nice. In the meantime, he's taking a lot of damage though, so that obviously is an issue.
All right, well,
oh,
yeah, a lot of damage is what he's seeing going right to his face. And to be fair, there are a few options. There's going to be the Sludge Belcher next turn. There's going to be, the Heal Bot next turn. But all those things happen next turn, not this turn. So do you just Pyro Equality?
Yeah, this is the biggest the board is usually going to get for a Shaman. You're not going to see anything too much bigger than this, so gonna go ahead, pick up a card off of his own loot hoard, then I'm gonna pick up 2 more off of the Solemn Vigil, has a lay on hand in hand, and also has a heal bot. Picks up another heal
oh,
bot, picks up another Solemn Vigil for
Oh my
0.
gosh. Because, yeah, Solemn Vigils, even if they're not in your hand, when you draw them, the same number of minions have died that turn. So that was a big play there. And plus, being able to clear off the board and now being able to drop down either healing or taunt or whatever he wants, that was a very, very scary turn for Fuoliver. But luckily, he made it through, and now he's actually in a pretty good spot.
So do you go for the Sludge Belcher here? The rule of thumb is you go for Sludge you go for Taunt before healing, because obviously minions then can't hit your face. But unless you're afraid of dying, and that could be the case right here. However, if your opponent uses at least 1 mana, because obviously your Earth Shock costs 1 mana, we do see it's an owl, but if it was 1 mana, do you actually die if your opponent... Could you actually die to something? And the answer is maybe if they have Crackle plus Hero Power or something of that ilk. So looks like Fuoliver's going to go for the safe route, not going to go for the Celestial quite yet, realizing that he has so much healing that he might be able to just outlast this steady shot equipped shaman here.
Yeah, and to be fair, that is what 9, 10, 11,
Hits for
15
3.
damage that he had possibly if you hit for 6 off the zap. But he is going for maximum burst to the face right here. Takes him back down to 8. Oh my gosh. See, yeah, going for the taunt there would have been a much, much better option because he wouldn't have been able to be attacked by any of that Rockbiter equipped.
Well, he would have forced out the owl, but obviously, like you said, it would have taken 2 mana for him to do that. So that's obviously an issue. Xingsu continuing to hit the face. Really has no other thought in mind right now than to do that. And yeah, it's getting kind of down to the wire here. Another lay on hands comes in hand, which is obviously very nice. But we'll see what we'll see if Fuoliver goes for. How many charges has he seen? Because that's kind of a big deal. If he thinks he's seen a lot of charges and there's not too many to come out right now, maybe he doesn't go for the Sludge Belcher because it's kind of hard to deal with the board that's on the board right now. He can't deal with everything unless he uses the Keeper of Aldemon. So
yeah, I think
really, how greedy can he be here is the question.
Yeah, I think there's one Argent Horse Rider and a Wolf Rider to begin with.
Oh, right, in the beginning, right, yeah. So, this is kind of... Oh, no, there was one Argent Horse Rider. I don't think there's a Wolf Rider, but in any case, he could die if, for instance, he uses Oldemon on the... I mean, we know that he can't die because we see the owl, but what he could die to is Doomhammer Rockbiter because there would be 10 damage from that, and obviously the extra 2 from the Leopard Gnome. So, looks like he's going to go for a bit of an in-between play, and going to go ahead and clear out this Totem Golem, realizing that's a lot of damage. Wow, we even have Arcane Golem in this deck, which is pretty surprising, I would say. I'm gonna actually use his hero power instead of using the Arcane Golem, just really wanting to maximize, as many hero powers as he can get out of it, realizing that, he's gonna be able to use this later. Lay on Hands coming out. I mean, this looked like it was gonna be really good for Fuoliver, considering how much healing he had, but he's barely holding on right now.
Yeah, Fuoliver definitely back up against the ropes, and I mean, Leopard Gnome's going to deal even more damage to his face, and oh man, that's 9, 10, 11 damage to the face. What is happening here? Holy cow. This is, keep in mind, he's healed for 16 health already this turn. We do have Lay on Hands to come out there, so this is definitely getting a little bit dicey. Lay on Hands actually overdraws him.
Yeah, I think you just burn the cards, right? You kind of have to. You have to burn the cards.
Yeah, to be fair though, when you burn a Murloc, it doesn't count as it dying, does it? Right?
Yeah, it doesn't count it. So it has to actually die on the field. So against all odds, Xingsu has actually gone through 2 heal buds, a Sludge Belcher, and 2 Lay on Hands, and now he picks up a
Doomhammer. Jeez Louise.
And True Silver is discarded.
No.
He's just dead. He's dead on board. And he can't actually draw any cards. Dead. Wow.
Wait,
no
he
healing.
has 5 health. How is he dead on board?
Because 2 hits from the Doomhammer and the hero power. And there's
yeah, that's true. I forgot that he had Hunter hero power.
Dang Hunter hero power.
That's so annoying.
Wow.
And he's got 24 health, so there's no way that he can win. Yeah, there's a surrender vote. Fuoliver taps out Xingsu, advances, and Man.
No, he's not out yet. It's still 2-2.
Oh yeah, it's just one more game. All right, I thought that was match point for both players because we just came off of a 5-game series. So I was like, oh man, 5-game series again. But now it's a 5-game series.
Exactly. So it became 5-game series. But do you realize that Fuoliver healed for 32 that game? Which means that Xingsu dealt 62 damage that game.
How do you? That's disgusting. Like, one deck deals 62 damage. Okay,
No
cool.
Well,
problem. Easy
it's
peasy,
actually
no
just
problem.
50 something because Fuoliver just tapped out. He didn't give the chance for Shinsu
Okay,
to
okay,
heal.
Shrink. Okay,
Thanks,
there
Frank.
would have been 62 plus damage dealable, and that was all in almost exactly 10 turns. So
All right.
that's
So we're coming into this matchup,
wow.
and this is what I was referring to before. It's actually a really tricky matchup for the Murloc Paladin, but I think if you play it, I think if both players play it correctly, the Murloc Paladin wins. What you have to do is really make sure that your Murlocs die. They have to die. You can't let your opponent entomb them and never play them. So you either have to take a chance and play them early, in particular your Murloc War Leader and well, you basically need at least one Murloc War Leader, and you can't
Did you
having
say
at least
Warlock Merleader?
Murloc War Leader, Warlock Mer Leader. You need the Warlock Mer Leader. You
Well,
need
no, no,
that.
no. There could definitely be a Warlock card called the Merleader. It's a Murloc, but it's a
Blizzard
Warlock
Blizzard
card at
called
the
me.
same. Hey, man, D2's coming up with the best ideas tonight.
But anyway, you need the war leader, right? You need at least one war leader, or else you can't do lethal damage. So basically, you need to make sure that at least one of them doesn't get entombed and dies in the field. So either you play it early on, and you just hope that your opponent plays enough stuff for you to sacrifice it, and they can't go to turn 6 and entomb it, or you play two at the same time, and they can't entomb both at the same time, and then you manage to kill them off later. Most hopefully when your opponent has a board, so they can't entomb back to back. But it really becomes really tricky here, and we'll see how these players kind of respond to this particular matchup, because Xingsu is definitely going to be looking to, because you're not going to survive as a priest against two, anything can happen. So Xingsu is going to be looking to just entomb the war leaders, and Fuoliver is going to make sure that doesn't happen.
All right, yeah. For as much as I am, as I question the viability of or the consistency of Patron Warrior, that at least has 5 ways to win the game usually. For Murloc Paladin, it has one way to win the game, and that's anything can happen. So
But
if you stop that from working, then
it
I don't
always
know.
works if you get it.
It's true. It's so frustrating because you know it's coming. Like you can't stop somebody from playing a card that's in their hand. Like you can't reach into their hand and discard something. I know Blizzard or the Hearthstone balance team is like very, very adamant that they don't want you to be able to reach into your opponent's hand and like control what he is able to do. So things like Lotheb can screw it up for a turn. You can have maybe mill decks work pretty well because it doesn't count as killing the Murloc if they're discarded. But if you're trying to play like a control matchup, Murloc's Paladin doesn't really play in a way that you can control unless it's that entomb on the war leaders like you were mentioning, D2. So that is the big thing to watch for here.
Right. One
Yeah,
thing
Rapid actually in early versions of Illidan, it's a 7/7, and you let both players discard 3 cards and draw 3 cards again. So it
Yeah,
actually
and they
happens.
changed that instantly.
Right. But anyway, we're getting to an interesting point in this game. One thing that occasionally happens, not always, is you can actually tempo the Murloc Paladin out of the game with the priest, and you're kind of seeing that right here. Typically, when you play the Death Lord,
Oh, that's a Celestial.
there's so you could get
Oh
anything can
man.
happen, but typically, when you have a Death Lord on the field, it immediately gets equality, and you lose a lot of tempo as the priest, because equality is a card that you actually keep in your opening hand for the Murloc Paladin against priest. But when that doesn't happen, you can see what happens right here as Solemn Vigil
Ah,
comes in hand, and Xingsu is so upset over things that aren't likely to happen. um, but yeah, this can definitely happen where this Death Lord just kind of runs amok, and you can't really do anything about it. So this is actually another win condition, but basically you have to really zerg the opponent down, and this Death Lord becomes an impenetrable wall.
All right, well, just continually heal up that Death Lord. And yeah, this is why you call it the impenetrable wall. It's not even just that it's impenetrable. Theoretically, it is, but not if it keeps getting healed up all the time, too. And especially if there's like a second villain's chosen, that would make it even more devastating. Yeah, and then you, like, I don't know, get a reversing switch, or you're running, what is it? It's the crazed
They can
alchemist.
get a
Yeah.
Torchly anyway.
Right, Satoshi from before, from the museum curator. But in any case, looks like we're going to see a couple of sacrifices here to the god of death in this Death Lord. But that that's going to bring it down a little bit in health. And I'm actually surprised that Xingqiu didn't actually play the Dark Cultist last turn. I feel like you need to put as much pressure on as possible. And healing your Death Lord, you're kind of just waiting for your opponent to draw quality in this situation.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's really the only option. It's like Hunter's Mark, but in an AOE. Like that's really the only option to deal with this.
And if you don't put enough
Yeah,
pressure
but
on board, if you don't put enough pressure on board, then eventually they're going to draw it, and then you've really made no progress in killing them, which is what you're trying to do in the first place, right? That's kind of what you're, that's your game plan at this moment, other than maybe entombing a Murloc War Leader later.
Right. What were you gonna say, Shrink?
yeah, he actually thought about the fact that Fuoliver was on turn 6. Just he didn't want to give his chance to play the consecrate, equally consecrate combo. I mean, if he can confirm that on turn 6, then he could take more liberties with his play. So I think that's what he may have thought.
Yeah, I didn't want to overcommit to the board. That definitely makes sense, but I mean, I feel like you kind of have to utilize this to your advantage. Fuoliver is actually completely. He almost had a heart attack there. I'm not really sure why. He was like super relieved to see the Solemn Vigil come out. I wonder if he was just worried about something crazy happening to him. Maybe he was worried about, I don't know, the Divine Spirit or Fire. I'm not really sure. But in any case, Chill Moss picked up here for a bit of extra kind of defense. And for Oliver, it looks like he's probably just going to go for the power equality, and from there kind of develop a board, maybe just the loot hoarder and a dude here. We'll see what he picks up off of this Death Lord. If it's a war leader, it could get entombed. It is a war leader, so if we see an entomb here, that's actually kind of a big deal. And yeah, just going to go ahead and Solemn Vigil for a couple more cards. Picks up the second war leader. That's actually really good for him. This is exactly what I was referring to before.
Wow.
You don't want to give your opponent the opportunity to entomb both, and so now he can't entomb both, at least not in this turn, Ken Xingsu. Not to mention the fact that he did... Oh, just kidding. I was going to say not to mention the fact that he doesn't have entomb in hand, but there it is. There's the entomb.
So if Xingsu doesn't entomb this turn, then he does have the opportunity to I don't know, just taunt. I mean, that's one way. You can power word death one of them, but even that one
Shadow Word
doesn't.
You can
Shadow word.
Power him to
there's,
death.
There's
No.
power, there's shadows, there's all kinds of words being going on down there, but
And before Blizzard makes a card called Power of the Shadows or something like that.
yeah. Power word shadow word power. I don't. It's like kill the enemy minion and buff your own dude. I don't know if that would really work out.
He's going to go ahead and kill both, and this is going to spell disaster for him. I don't really see Xingsu coming back from this one.
That's the way you win against the deck, is you entomb the thing.
Right.
But
I mean, this is kind of anticlimactic because we are in the 5th game of the decider of this series, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Xingsu's plan here is. I don't know how he's going to win this game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you kill both of them, you know they're coming back. You're just letting them come back later on. I mean, Murloc, Paladin doesn't care whether his stuff gets killed. He's probably more worried if it doesn't get killed, honestly.
Exactly.
So.
That's exactly it, right? He's definitely worried about it just getting entombed and never seeing the face of that guy again. So I don't know if Xingsu has really played this matchup, to completely frank and honest here. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. Basically, I mean... Xingsu is on the clock, and Fuoliver isn't. So, yeah, okay. So the Shrinkmeister comes in the hand, which could be something that could be useful in the future, as far as taking something away, but doesn't really matter too much.
Right.
Because the guy already died, so you can anyfin, and even if your opponent takes it away, you're gonna anyfin it back again the second time anyway. So
yeah. To be fair, every time that we've cast these things, it kind of feels like I'm playing Priest anyway, because we get the Shrinkmeister with us every single cast.
Right. Oh my god. Oh my god, that was so bad. Anyway. Fuoliver looks like he's not afraid of any dragons being in the hand. Turns that guy into a Mogulishan Warden and starts filling up the board here. Unfortunately, this does kind of get blown up by Holy Nova, which we do see is in the hand of Xingsu. But...
But also gets blown up if they're actually going to go ahead and steal that loot hoarder away.
I think that's just like a fruitless endeavor here for Xingsu. I mean, it does get some pressure onto the board. So 22% chance of drawing the next one, which means how far are we into the deck?
Usually they only show that if it's lethal. Is that really lethal?
I don't think it's lethal. Basically, they're just saying that he needs to draw it soon, or things could get a bit hairy, I suppose. But he does have lay on hand, so I think he's going to be fine here.
All right. Well, yeah. There's lay on hands. There's nothing really to worry about either. He can even just go ahead and clear the board as is. He doesn't care about losing the 1/1s.
Right. I'm actually. Oh, he's gonna. Okay, he's just giving himself one more damage in his face, so you get the full healing off. He can actually use a quality here just to clear off the board. And Bluegill Warrior is actually interesting as well. I mean, you could just Bluegill Warrior here. It's actually kind of not the. I mean, he's gonna have lethal anyway, right? This is good. This is the last Murloc in his deck, by the way.
Right.
Looks like he's just gonna go for Solemn Vigil here, which is why he's trading everything off. But he has so much card draw. Again, this is so anticlimactic, guys. But I just don't see. This is just so inevitable at this point.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing about it. You've got a priest who's almost full health, and there's just no way for the priest to have enough health to deal with this. Like you could, we've seen this happen to warriors that have 10, 12 armor, and they still just die. Now, granted, there's only one anything in hand, but it is still lots of damage to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Doom or the Death Lord, excuse me, comes into hand, which is something, but I mean, if he plays it right now, it's going to get a quality away. Okay,
I'm actually thinking about the possibility of about too many taunts in a way, so Fuoliver couldn't get in time, and he will be very deep in fatigue.
Right. So just just delay the game as long as possible if you're Xingsu. Just put a bunch of taunts in the way, and the Anyfin can maybe bust through the taunts, but they can't actually find lethal. That could be something that he goes for.
Yeah, I mean, problem is if you set up the taunts right now, then the board's just gonna die to equality consecrate or equality. And here we go. Now there's a 1 in 3 chance of drawing the second one.
Do you just go for? I think you just go for it now, right?
Yeah, there's no taunts in the way, so just go for it. I mean, you're not going to die at 24 health next turn to a priest.
And then your opponent has to start clearing your stuff. They're afraid of you, so they start putting taunts in the way. Then you quality consecrate. But it looks like he's going to use the...
I mean, it's a huge board, so there's really no problem with clearing this. It's not like the priest could ever put another board this scary out next turn. Plus, it heals you for 5 health, and with the Doomsayer, there's nothing this priest can do.
Right.
I mean, they can silence the Doomsayer if they're running like an owl or something along those lines. But, I mean, even that, it's like... Yeah, who cares? It's 10 turn. It's turn 10. There's now a 50% chance of drawing the second Anyfin, and even if it's the last card in the deck, that's exactly that's the dream for Murloc Paladin is to have drawn through your entire deck because then you win.
Right, and Fuoliver is actually holding on to his True Silver here. I believe what is the damage for the initial set of all 5 Murlocs? I always forget this. I think it's 612 plus. It's like 20, I believe, something like that. But it's 20-something. And so it's not going to be lethal, I suppose. But I think if Fuoliver had hit the face, he might have had lethal.
See, there's a total of 5 Murlocs in the deck, right? So
the Bluegills are 6 plus 6, which is 12, right? And then the
Old Murkai is let's see, same thing. It starts at 6 and then it gets buffed by 4.
7, it's 11. So it's 23 damage. So there actually could have been lethal here, potentially. Looks like he's going to finally just entomb this guy. And there's no minions in the deck, so, Fuoliver can just kind of burst through this right here. So he's going to go with the Murkai first. It's actually 10 damage.
It's 10.
My mistake. So yeah, 22 damage overall. And just going to kill this guy off. No minions are going to come out, so it's not going to make a big deal. There is a Light Bomb, but he can't play Light Bomb plus the Sludge Belcher, so I don't really see how you get out of this. You can't just play Belcher because all of you just died on board. So, yeah, that's it. I'm
Nope.
sorry.
Yeah, I mean you can light bomb here, but like who cares if you light bomb because he knows that the last card in his opponent's deck is just going to be, at worst case, it's the last anyfin. And to be fair, that is the worst case that anyfin is the last card in your deck. But fortunately, he's drawn through everything in his deck, and he knows there's only one card left in the second anyfin that's coming out.
I mean, Xingsu kind of played this a bit strangely, but to be fair, he kind of got a bit unfortunate with the fact that, as we see, a kind of useless death battles coming out here. But he kind of got unfortunate with how both war leaders came out at the same time, and he couldn't actually entomb them both. But that's going to be it. Fuoliver, after a long day of Hearthstone, he defeats both Tiddler and Xingsu, and he's going to make it out of this group and into the round of 16. Our first streamer to make it to the round of 16, so congratulations to him. Our two players who advanced are LoveCX and